Hey there, humans of the horror tree. You are correct. I'm not Belinda. She's taking a well-earned break. So I am one of those faces she mentioned might pop up to deliver the weekly roundup while she's away. My name is Lauren. I'm also the editor of Horror Tree's weekly fiction zine, Trembling With Fear. But you're not here for me, so let's get to the action. I've coded this week's calls for submission and have picked a few standouts to bring you here on the YouTube machine for your delectation. First up, Dose of Dread from Dreadstone Press is going to open the next submission window on the 1st of October for 2 weeks only. They're looking for general horror flash fiction, no specific theme, and pay 2 cents per word. Original stories, no reprints, and simultaneous submissions are accepted, but not multiple submissions, so pick your best. They're asking for first world electronic rights and non-exclusive rights thereafter. They also ask you to check your story carefully before submitting, as they won't accept any rough drafts. So polish it up, get a mate to read it, only sub your best work, people. Next up, we have A Coup of Owls, which is an awesome name for a publishing house, by the way, and I can't speak today. Coup of Owls has open submissions for the quarterly online anthology, Other and Different. They're looking for the stories you've poured your soul into, but haven't been able to find the right home for. Stories that make them feel something. It's about heartfelt fiction that writers are passionate about, while also celebrating and supporting diversity. They publish stories in all genres and styles and fill the gap between genre-based calls and diversity-based calls. So those little bits in between where you're not quite sure you can fit, check out A Coup of Owls. But do listen up, A Coup of Owls only publishes creators from underrepresented and or marginalized backgrounds or communities. This includes, but is not limited to, people who identify as LGBTQIA+, BIPOC, and disabled people. They take it on trust that submissions are from someone in marginalized communities, but honestly, if you're not from one of these communities and you submit, you do need to take a good, long, hard look at yourself. Anyways, this call out is for the winter issue. And while there are no set issue themes, you are invited to be inspired by the season, seasonal occasions and events. They're looking for drabbles, which as we know are exactly 100 words, flash fiction of 100 to 1,000 words, and short stories of 1,000 to 8,000 words. They'll only publish fiction, so no nonfiction, poetry, or creative nonfiction, please. And also make sure you're aged 18 or over before you submit. There are also flat rates of pay, which will be found on the website closer to the call out. Work must be complete, not an excerpt or a serial, and original. If you're retelling an existing story, please ensure it's wholly your own work and that the source material is out of copyright. Scrubbed fan fiction is welcome, but it must be an original piece and must not infringe on copyright. For more on that, you can see the really detailed FAQs on the A Coup of Owls website. I'm going to keep saying that because it's such an awesome name. So it is for an adult readership, so there's no children's or YA stories here. No simultaneous subs or reprints, but multiple submissions are okay. The guidelines on the website are actually really detailed and strong, so definitely head over to accoutofowls.com for more information and make sure you follow them all. This is a gorgeous and lush online publication, really beautiful design and presentation, and I highly recommend checking it out. On a similar theme is khōréō, a quarterly publication of stories, essays, and art in fantasy, sci-fi, horror, and any genre in between or around it, as long as there's a speculative element. This is another early listing. The submission window will be from the 1st to the 31st of October, with payment of 8 cents per word, or $500 for custom cover art and $100 for cover art from an existing portfolio. Yes, they're looking for art as well here. They're especially interested in writing an art that explores some aspect of migration, whether explicitly, metaphorically, or with a sly nod and wink. The editors also say this is a new magazine and they're still finding its identity. So don't self-reject if you're not sure that your work is a good fit. Be bold, give them a chance to decide for themselves. Now to the types of writers khōréō is searching for. The publication is dedicated to diversity and amplifying the voices of immigrant and diaspora authors and artists. They welcome, but don't require, a brief description of the author's or artist's identity in their cover letter. When they say identify as an immigrant or member of a diaspora, they're talking in the broadest terms. It includes first and second generation immigrants, refugees, asylum seekers, undocumented migrants, persons who identify with one or more diaspora communities, persons who have been displaced or whose heritage has been erased due to colonialism, transnational and transracial adoptees, or anyone whose heritage and history includes here and elsewhere. They especially encourage BIPOC creators who identify with these descriptions to submit their work. This is the last submission window for writing for khōréō this year, but art submissions are open year round. So check it out and support the up and comers. For Jewish authors and those with Jewish themed stories, look no further than Aggadah Try It, an imprint of Madness Heart Press, which focuses specifically on Jewish fiction and literature. Aggadah Try It is looking for horror, science fiction, fantasy, and surrealistic fiction. And specifically, they like stories with supernatural, unnatural, and sci-fi elements. This is not a place for your real world stuff. Your historic fiction, your Jewish studies is all about speculative fiction. Payment is 50% of net retail royalties, a potential advance, and 5 contributors' copies with a 2-year agreement. And they promise there will be no costs accrued by the author. As always, check the submission guidelines carefully to make sure this is one for you, but it's always worth considering the small and indie presses alongside the self-publishing route, especially if you don't have the time to really invest in your marketing presence. So check out Aggadah Try It. If you are more inclined to the science fiction side of the coin, consider Planet Scumm, which is now reading for issue number 16 until the 2nd of October. They're looking for hard sci-fi, soft sci-fi, and they say sci-fi that melts in your mouth brain and not in your hand brain. That's how they describe it anyway. Payment here is 6 cents per word and 1 contributor copy. And you'll want to make sure your stories or collections of flash fiction hit no more than 5,000 words in length. They accept simultaneous subs, but ask that you promptly withdraw the story if it's accepted elsewhere. Planet Scumm operates in print, ebook, and audiobook, and some accepted stories will also go on the website. And finally, maybe saving the most exciting for last, you could be the judge of that, is Interstellar Flight Press's call for horror novellas in speculative genres. This call is also open to translations, and books will be slotted for a 2023 to 26 publication date. It's open from the 1st of October to the 1st of December 2022, so you've got 2 months to get it in. Novellas should be between 17,500 and 40,000 words, and that's a hard word count limit. For this one, they consider the horror genre to include, but not limited to, science fiction horror, fantasy horror, supernatural, weird horror, mysteries or thrillers with horror elements, and hybrids or difficult to categorize works. They say they want your slashers, your zombies, witches, vampires, monsters, demons, devils, ghosts, aliens, haunted houses, possessed children, creepy carnivores. Hey, they are after my heart. But they're also looking for your horror comedies, your psychological thrillers, body horror, crime noir, creature features, serial killers, shapeshifters, disasters, and viruses. Collaborative projects are welcome, but royalties will be split based upon agreement by the parties involved. For this one, you'll need to send in the complete manuscript. That's your entire book. And there's specific formatting requirements, so do check the website carefully. Also note they're asking for content warnings on the first page of the manuscript. They do have a guide to content warnings on their website, and you'll also find their list of hard sells. That is the sorts of themes that are unlikely to be successful in this call. New authors and those from underrepresented backgrounds and marginalized communities are welcome to submit here. Oh, and I forgot the most exciting part, actually. The guest editor for this one is none other than the wonderful and prolific Kiwi, Lee Murray. You know you want to be a part of this one, right? I thought so. But that's it. That is a mere smattering of the awesome calls we have over on horrortree.com. So head to the site, pick your potions, and get writing. And it would be remiss of me not to remind you, we're also open for submissions every week of the year with Trembling With Fear. It's found on the Horrortree site, and I'd love to hear from you. Next week, you'll have another new face on your YouTube screen. So I'll say bye for now and happy writing.